There's a lot of stuff in it. Maybe stuffing is called stuffing because there's stuff in it. Just kidding, sorry. Okay. Hi, I'm Eric Kim. I'm a cooking columnist for the New York Times. And this is a stuffing video. We're gonna go through 20 different stuffings. And what I really wanted to do with this story was go all out and just report the heck out of this dish that is kind of everyone's favorite. I'm excited for the taste test. I think tasting them all together will help me really examine what I want my final stuffing to be. Stuffing is typically comprised of bread or carbohydrate. Some people do rice stuffings. Liquid, it's really stock that people use. Aromatics, herbs, spices, protein. We've got some lapchang here, which is like really cool. That's gonna be in the mochi rice stuffing. Oh, oysters is meat. That's like a protein. And fun stuff. Those are the kind of like fun additions that can make your stuffing your own. I think all this to say, stuffing can be a lot of things. Don't yuck people's yums. Just like watch this video and, be like, oh, that's cool that other people do that. Yesterday, we prepped 18 stuffings from NYT Cooking. Today, I thought it would be nice to round out that number with 2 more. We're using these, you've seen them before. We're gonna wash them and recycle them, don't worry. What's really fun too is today we're gonna have some colleagues come over and taste all 20. The 2 stuffings that I'm gonna start with are packaged stuffings. It's certainly what I grew up with. I grew up with the boxed kind. But this kind is the bag kind. One thing that's interesting is you've got these like crumbs. They're like basically croutons. But when you go further down, there's like dust. And I think that mixture is probably like really nice. This one is like very semi-homemade, really easy, and it just starts with a little sauteed onion and celery. I really think of this step as the flavor step. Okay. I'm adding some just boxed chicken stock, letting it come to a boil, which will take 2 seconds. When you're doing a packaged stuffing like this, you can really doctor it up with like extra sage. You can add other ingredients that you like. You could have browned some sausage in here. So see what I said about, you have the bigger crumbs and then some of the smaller crumbs? I think that's like, honestly, probably really good for texture. And this really is, I can smell like, it smells like the stuffing that I'm familiar with as well. So I'm just gonna butter this dish. It smells really good. Your stuffing is whatever you put in it. So if you put only 3 things in it, it's gonna taste like those 3 things. Okay, this next one is the box stuffing. A lot of people grew up with this. I grew up with this. You just pour it into some boiling water with butter and then you let it sit, and there's no baking or anything. One thing about this stuffing is that it has these adorable little cubes. The texture of these is like a little different from the other one. Notice how they're kind of like smaller? This seems like it's just like dried bread, but someone really deliberately came up with the exact size and hydration so that by the time this gets added to the water, it won't be like a mushy mess. I forgot how easy this is. And on the bottom, you can see like what the seasoning mix is. It's like a little bit of sage and thyme and stuff. So it's been 5 minutes, and that's it. It's like maybe a little mushy, but it will continue to hydrate, and you can kind of still see little like cubes. I don't know, I like this one. This one's a classic NYT Cooking recipe. It's called Thanksgiving dressing. We should probably say something about how dressing is basically just stuffing that's not stuffed inside the bird. But I think over time, people have started to call dressing stuffing. I'm gonna have my computer here with me because, man, if you see this spreadsheet, we have a lot to get through today. Don't look, I have like silly notes in here. Yesterday, after prepping all of these stuffings with Amelia and Christine, we kind of sat down and talked through what was notable about each one. I think this one is super classic. It's pretty reliable, everyone likes it. Christine mentioned that if this is like your very first Thanksgiving and you're not sure what stuffing even is, like this is a great place to start. Something that's really nice is that this has apple. Apple offers bursts of fruity tartness, especially if you're using like a green apple like this. This dressing is interesting because you add a little Worcestershire sauce, and I would imagine this adds some umami. It looks pretty classic. To be honest, it kind of looks like the packaged ones, not like in a bad way. It's just like real bread, you know? Okay, thank you, next. So this is a bread stuffing. I picked this recipe because instead of using hand-torn like croutons or something like that, this one uses bread crumbs, like true crumbs, like this. This is a loaf of sourdough that's been processed, you know, in the food processor. I am really excited to taste this one because it is our minimalist bread stuffing. One thing this recipe is going to teach me, I'm really excited to see, is whether more ingredients necessarily means better. And I think we all kind of know the answer to that. It's not always the case. So this is like our minimalist bread pudding. I'm excited to taste it. This is a stuffing with mushrooms, leeks, and bacon. I think it's really fun because it's pretty versatile. It calls for either white bread or cornbread, so you can choose your route, choose your region. The bacon is kind of the prominent reason why I picked it. See, like, if that's something I want on my Thanksgiving table this year. I like the idea that there is apple cider when you have some tartness, like instead of maybe wine. I think that's a great idea. The one thing that is important to say about stuffing is the fat emulsifies with the liquid and it creates that custardy texture. Some people use eggs, but I think if you have enough butter, you don't need eggs. I'm a little biased towards this recipe. This is Yuande Komalafe's cornbread dressing. It's really special because it's the first one in our lineup that has sausage. I love sausage, so I like that idea. I also love that there's buttermilk as like the liquid. Yuande developed this for a column that was sort of about how she didn't grow up with Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving wasn't her thing. So I think it's good always to have like someone who can look at it from a third person perspective, which means that this is gonna be really good. And all of this, right? Man, okay. This is a mixture of stock and buttermilk. One thing I've noticed about some of the, you know, recipes that we've seen so far is that they kind of looked a little dry. I think there are multiple factors about that, but one thing to note is just that this is gonna go in an oven. It's also gonna soak for a while first, and it needs to be more moist than you think. Some butter goes on top. How can that not be good? Okay, next. I won't slide it again. We're kind of in the territory of cornbread dressings now, you know? This one is really rich. It was called rich cornbread dressing. I was intrigued by the mixture of cornbread and regular white bread. You get the flavor of both, which is nice. Not to mention all of this butter. If my mom were here, I would say, look away. My mom grew up in an era where butter is bad. So one big reason I chose this is this heavy cream mixture. This is heavy cream in stock. Reminds me of like a bread pudding, actually. This is a Julia Moskin recipe. I like that she also calls for like optional oysters. So we've got some oysters here. We add oysters to kimchi all the time, and it adds its like brininess. Oysters are amazing. They're like magical alien creatures. Okay, I think that's good. We'll like reel it in. This is a rich dressing, which is why it's called rich. So this is a very special stuffing. It's Lucy Buffett's oyster stuffing. Lucy Buffett as in Jimmy Buffett's sister. This one calls for fresh shucked oysters. It also, you can use the canned kind, but we figured the oyster stuffing, we should maybe try some fresh oysters in it. I don't know, I've like done this once or twice. Maybe. Yes, please.
So just get in there, wedge the knife in, and then go like up. Less like this way and more like up, like
right. Thanks.
Twist. Okay.
Thank you so much, Amelia. You call this a cornmeal crusted oyster. Yeah, it's giving that vibe because as she was making this, she was like, there's a lot of richness, there's a cornbread, but then the oysters really add a brininess. I love the fish taste. My partner really likes that flavor as well. It's funny because I was like, I'm gonna learn how to shuck oysters before this video. I don't want to hurt myself. Okay. Yeah, we tried. You can use canned. Okay. Wow. You know, this will be good. How could it not? A little chicken stock. And this recipe calls specifically for crystal hot sauce. You know when you make like a stew, if you add a little fish in there, or clams, or the seafood itself gives off its liquor, you know? And I think that flavor is totally underrated. It's like something you appreciate if you're like a water sign like me. Wow, this is a lot of stuffing. Okay, you ready for a story? This is Marilyn Monroe stuffing. It's wild. It has so many things in it. This recipe was scrawled on the letterhead of an insurance company. It bears the mark of the Bay Area and influences of Italian cooking, potentially picked up from her marriage to Joe DiMaggio. So these older recipes are kind of drier than the modern ones. I wonder if it's because these are meant to be stuffed inside the bird, and so the fat from the bird is supposed to moisten the stuffing. This one calls for hard-boiled eggs. It's a sourdough-based nuts. It's a combination of walnuts, pine nuts, or roasted chestnuts. To that point, we're gonna see if maximalist necessarily means better. This kind of reminds me of like southern broccoli salad, actually. It's like the flavor of like the raisins in there. This is the chorizo stuffing. It's the cured kind from Spain. It dyes the bread this gorgeous kind of terracotta color, which I think is really nice. I think the pork here does a lot of the work. But another thing is, because this is like sort of Spanish inspired, it calls for 2 tablespoons of sherry vinegar. I think that's really prominent and interesting. I think it's gonna taste good. Oh, I might love this one. Nothing like a cured sausage, you know? I kind of like this video because it feels like we're really honoring like the legacy, not just of stuffing, but of the New York Times and all the reporting we've done over the years. These are all amazing recipes, you know? This is our Italian spinach stuffing. One thing that's interesting about this mixture is there's a lot of gizzard. The gizzards give the stuffing its depth of flavor like giblet gravy, but you could leave them out. I think the gizzards are really interesting, a little offal in here. Why not? Let's try that. We've been experimenting with different proteins. This was reported by Julia Moskin. This is an Italian-American turkey stuffing, she writes, that was invented in New Jersey by Pietronilla Conte. Pietronilla Conte. I don't speak Italian, sorry. The one thing that's often missing from my table is anything green. So this is like a lot of veg. Like this is something that I really gravitate towards stuff like this. It breaks up the richness of the meal, you know? Not to say that this isn't rich, it has like so many gizzards in it. I picked this one because I thought it really represented the California stuffing. This really spans globally in terms of flavor, I think. Like, you've got some dates in here, which are really great, and you've got almonds, and then you got chile de arbol. This is fun too, because as it cooks, it probably like hydrates them a little bit. I love this. It looks great. Stuffing usually looks like, as we've seen, not great. I'm just gonna say that. But this, it's really nice to have all these lacy like strings of kale. I love that there's sherry in this. Sherry. Oh my God, it smells so good. I don't know. I think that's nice. Not many of these recipes call for chili. Oh, maybe I'll do that. I feel like it's gonna come at you, and you're gonna be like, "There's no meat in this." Yeah. One really significant thing about this is the obvious kind of caramelized onion situation on top. It was 4 pounds of onions. I was laughing yesterday while doing it because I don't think I've ever caramelized that many onions. We did it in this pot. I couldn't see the inside of the pot for like very many minutes because there was just so much moisture, and it was like a witch's brew, kind of like clouding. What a nice way to really ensure there's moisture but also flavor. This recipe is a French onion stuffing by Kei Chun. It starts with a saute of finely diced celery in the oil. If you could smell that, it kind of smelled like, you know, a more natural, more delicious version of the boxed, you know, seasoning. Meaning that it was just like heightened umami. Thanks, Kay. This is our little black dress of stuffings. I was really excited about this one because A, it's a Melissa Clark recipe, but also it represents the kind of stuffing that, there's like this specific style used with brioche that I think is really nice. A lot of people go hard on like the sourdough and the crustier breads, but something about like an eggy bread stuffing, it's really nice. I like the flavor a lot. There's like a little sweetness and balance. You know, fennel bulb is used as some of the aromatic, but it does make me always think that I'm like Ina Garden when I'm doing it. You know, elegant. That's a better word. It's elegant. It's really, really elegant. One thing that's really important about this recipe is it kind of calls for tearing the bread with your hands and having it sit out overnight. If you don't have time to leave your bread out overnight, you can bake it. It's like a low oven, and you toast it until the bread is dry, until you can like hear it. Is a bread pudding stuffing? Can we consider bread pudding a stuffing? Is a strata a stuffing? Is stuffing a bread pudding? I don't know. I think you could have like a more pudding-like stuffing. So this one gets some Parmesan. It has cognac. It's very French. This is a fan favorite. It's a Susan Spungen mushroom bread pudding. People like this one. Okay, bye. We've made it to the rice stuffings. This one is a wild rice, almond, and mushroom stuffing. So I would say this stuffing, you know, maybe like a little Midwestern. I didn't grow up with it, but I like the idea that it represents like a region of our country. You can stuff a bird with it. I think that would be delicious in here because there isn't really much like, there isn't any animal protein. There's not like that kind of fat. I think it's important also for Thanksgiving dishes to include everyone. I think there are people at the table who don't eat meat. I like wild rice a lot actually. It's like tray full, you know? So hashra means stuffing in Arabic. Man, as I was making it, I was toasting those spices. This is allspice, this is nutmeg, and that is cinnamon. Man, this combination of spices bloomed in the oil and then added to the meat and rice mixture. I use jasmine right now because I like the idea of having that aromatic kind of like floral quality in this. But I love that she called for calrose because that's actually my rice of choice. But it also comes with a lovely yogurt sauce. So we have some cucumbers here, we have lemon, garlic, and you're just mixing everything together. And this yogurt sauce is gonna be served with, and I think that sounds delicious. Actually, we're gonna toast some nuts later when we serve it. Since it's like bejeweled with the nuts, it feels really like special. Yeah. This is our mochi rice stuffing. We're using mochi rice. You know, when we were cooking this yesterday, we were saying that it kind of reminds us of the sticky rice that's wrapped in banana leaf, right? That's what you said? It's like steamed, which is like one of my favorite dishes at dim sum. This comes from Hawaii. Lara Mui Cowell of Honolulu offers this recipe from her popo maternal grandmother, Janie Luke Tom. So this is another grandma recipe, which you know it's gonna taste good. I really like that it features lapchang, which is this wonderful Chinese sausage. Man, this stuff is so good. We can serve it just like this. I'm gonna garnish it with this omelet. Christine did this. I'm not gonna take credit for these amazing, thin, diaphanous omelets. They're almost like little crepes. They're gorgeous. That's so inviting. A little egg element. If I were to make this myself, I would probably leave the cilantro leaves whole because I love that look, but it does call for coarsely chopped, so I'm gonna just like very lightly be like, yeah. And, wow. That's definitely, in my opinion, one of the most exciting looking ones. I'm excited to taste that. We had to have a vegan stuffing, you know. You need one option that everyone can eat or that people who don't eat animal products can eat. I think in this case, the stock is really gonna matter. I really like the vegetable soup bases, the vegetable stock pastes, you know. That has a lot of flavor, a lot of nice like umami. I think this recipe can teach you that eggs are sort of optional. I really don't even add eggs to my stuffing myself, so we love sausage over here, but I respect a vegan stuffing, you know. And it calls for like pouring this half a cup of stock on top later. But anyway, this is gonna soak and be delicious. I've actually had plenty of vegan stuffings in my life that taste fine, that taste really good, you know. Number 20 is mine. It's a cheesy pizza stuffing that I developed last year. It's a nice option if you want like a tomatoey element on your table. You know, for me, it's really the combination of dried oregano and tomato paste. Those two get bloomed in some butter and some like nicely browned onions. So there's a lot of like savoriness here. It gives you pizza vibes. This is really fun. I like this one. I like developing this. And we're done. Thank you, Amelia and Christine. Incredible. You know, I'm not stuffinged out. Stuffing is so personal. You know, people put out their family stuffing recipes. Don't you want to like experience what that person's most beloved dish tastes like? Tastes flat. I think I'm allowed to say that. It tastes like exactly what we did to it. We only did butter and onion and celery. It has a nice like yellow color actually. I don't know from what, but I like this one. But I'm also really familiar with it, and it's herbal. It's not herbal, it's herbaceous. You know, green apple's nice. It's a nice tip. There's actually a freshness to this one. So this is that stuffing that instead of the larger kind of croutons, this is made with the bread crumbs. Great flavor. I love this. I love that this is the one that has the fewest ingredients, I think. So this is our mushroom leek and bacon stuffing. The main point of this one is the bacon. I like want to see if that really comes through. The cornbread version is really corny in a lovely way, like the corn flavor is nice. Okay, here's our first sausage stuffing. Wow, that's excellent. The buttermilk's actually not as pronounced as I thought it'd be, but in a good way. It really like melds together with the sausage well. This is the rich cornbread stuffing. Look at this. It's kind of like a pastry or something. Okay, sorry. This tastes like clam chowder. This is the Lucy Buffett oyster dressing, and it also calls for serving it with the hot sauce that's in it. It's good. I just can't taste the oysters that much because the hot sauce is sort of like overpowering everything. We've kind of been waiting for this one, right? This is the Marilyn Monroe stuffing. It has everything. As Christine said, she wanted it all. It has so many textures. If you're a fan of like crunchy, chewy, crispy, like this has a lot of that. I really am excited about this one. That's great flavor. I feel like in a way I'm sort of judging the chorizo and not the stuffing itself. So here's our Italian-American stuffing, the spinach stuffing with the gizzards and just really soothing. I've eaten a lot of stuffing so far, and this one was a nice way to like cleanse my palate a little bit with vegetally ironiness. This is very irony. It has the kale, the nuts. Kale might be the way to go. This is the Kei-chan French onion stuffing. And ooh, look at that. Can you tell how moist that is? That's great, that's moist. You can taste the deepness of the base. Here's a proper vegetarian stuffing that doesn't taste vegetarian. This is the Melissa Clark stuffing. We call it the little black dress stuffing because it has like, you know, fennel, and fennel is quite elegant, I think. It has chestnuts, which is cool. If you don't want to just add nuts, you could add chestnuts that are vacuum packed like that because those have a lot of smokiness. Wow, that's gorgeous. Look at that. That's really custardy. Cool. Oh my God, as soon as I cut into it, I got a waft of mushroom. It was like a punch in the face. It's interesting, but I think it's the cheesiness that makes me wonder if bread pudding is stuffing. Let me know in the comments. We've got our wild rice stuffing. It's pretty classic in certain parts of the United States, especially in the Midwest. I think it'd be better in advance actually, and the rice would like really soak up the flavors. This one has some oil fried nuts, slivered almonds and pine nuts, delicious. That combo of allspice, cinnamon, black pepper, and nutmeg is excellent. Oh, I'm excited about this one. This is the mochi rice stuffing. Using that really sticky rice, gorgeous. The lapchung. There's just so much flavor in here, like how could it be bad? The chestnut with the pork is nice. So this is the vegan stuffing. I don't know, reminds me of North America. You know what I'm talking about? Like pecans with the herbs and the celery. I like the pecans in this. I would consider pecans after having this. I already know what this tastes like. I'll try a little bit. You do kind of need to serve it warm. See how the cheese is sort of like, you know, hardened now? It's still gonna taste really good, but I personally just like this texture. I like that this is like a little softer than the top, which is like crispy and cheesy. I feel weird talking about my own, but I'll let other people say stuff.
When you're making stuffing, you have to use your spidey senses. Don't be afraid to add more stock or more liquid if it feels right.
White bread. Sourdough.
If you asked me before today, I would have said white bread, but I think today I've been converted.
Team cornbread?
Cornbread.
My favorite stuffing is the caramelized onion, and I feel like it fits the best with the Thanksgiving flavors.
Meat.
Sausage always. I mean, yeah, even the chorizo worked well for me, but I think it's gotta have that. Sorry.
The oyster one was good. It was a little sweeter than I was expecting, but I have no beef with oysters.
So we tried 20 stuffings today. These 20 stuffings taught me a lot about what is possible. But as I think about the elements of each that I like the most, that I'm gonna borrow from, I'm gonna kind of create an alignment chart. And so I kind of so I can visualize what I'm doing and sort of think about what's essential to this final ultimate stuffing recipe that I'm gonna develop this year. Hi, thanks for watching. If you'd like the recipe, you can get it on nytcooking.com. It's called Thanksgiving Stuffing.